boys and girls, Greg from the Scary Spirits Podcast here to make you another cocktail. This week's cocktail is the Tiny Dancer. And it is, as always, the featured cocktail in today's episode. Let's start with our shaker with no ice. To that, we're going to add bourbon. 1 1/2 ounces. Any more bourbon. Next, Campari. 1/2 ounce. Next, 1 ounce blood orange juice. 1 ounce blood orange. Two ounces club soda. But we add that later. We need 1/2 teaspoon of honey. Whoa. That'll work. Then we stir to combine. Then we're going to take our rocks glass with our big ice cube in it. Pour that in there. Then we top with our club soda. I'm going to add some more club soda. Oh, and of course, a squeeze from the plastic lemon. There you have it, boys and girls. The Tiny Dancer. Yeah, it's alright. Put a little bit too much club soda. But it's good. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. See ya.
You might think that nothing should stand in the way of love. But this week's episode of the Scary Spirits Podcast, The Raven from 1935, might just change your mind. Once you start blackmailing criminals to knock off anyone with dissenting views, you're probably venturing into things you shouldn't do for love. And speaking of things you shouldn't do, don't agree to have a 10-minute surgery in someone's basement, especially if they don't even remove your street clothes. Bad decisions abound in this movie. Cheers!
Welcome to the Scary Spirits Podcast. Please be advised that the presenters may use adult language and or discuss adult situations. This podcast is not intended for younger listeners or those that may be easily offended. So, if you're ready, let's go.
Hello, boys and girls. I'm Greg,
Hey everyone, I'm Karen.
and welcome to the Scary Spirits Podcast, the podcast that combines the two very different but highly compatible worlds of scary films and alcoholic spirits.
What could possibly go wrong?
Indeed. How are you, Karen?
I'm hanging in there. How are you, Greg?
I'm good. Thank you for asking.
It's what we do.
Karen, was this film my choice?
Yes, it was. Do you want to tell everyone why you chose this film?
Should I tell them why, or should I tell them what it is and then tell them why?
Let's switch it up. Tell them why and then tell them what it
Okay.
is.
Yeah, I'll do that then. Well, Karen, you know that Boris Karloff's birthday was last Saturday. If you go listen to this on the day it goes live,
Okay. And he's in the
November
film you've chosen.
23rd.
I'm guessing. Say, when was his birthday? I'm sorry. I spoke over you, Greg.
November 23rd, Karen.
Nice.
And yes, he does appear in this film. Would you like to guess what it is?
There are a few choices. So I'm going to let you just tell
It's
everyone.
from 1935.
Because I would cheat because I know what it is. So
Yes, Karen. The film
it is one of those fun films where Bela and Boris are both in it.
Yes, it is The Raven from 1935.
You know, I really want to read The Raven because we have seen many a film called The Raven that I think has nothing to do with.
You've heard
The
it
Raven.
recited. We watched it be performed, Karen.
I know, but I need to commit it more to memory. That was cool, though.
Yes. Well, I will say this one does a better job of tying it in than the last one we did, which was the comedy, I think, with Vincent
True.
Price.
I think it has.
When they did the wizard duel. Or whatever
It was entertaining, though.
I suppose. I think I picked that one too. Did I?
Yes.
I don't remember.
I do.
Yeah, so that's what I've chosen. The Raven from 1935.
And we already know why. So you want to tell us what drink you selected for this film?
The drink I have chosen is called the Tiny Dancer.
Aw.
Did you see what I did there, Karen?
Yes, very, very clever.
It's not a major plot story, but it's in there. Would you like to know how to make it, Karen?
I would.
We're going to need 1.5 ounces of bourbon, a half an ounce Campari, 1 ounce blood orange juice, half a teaspoon of honey, 2 ounces of club soda, squeeze of lemon, and an orange peel for garnish. We're going to take our bourbon, Campari, blood orange juice, and honey, and we're going to add it to the cup of a cocktail shaker. Then we're going to stir to combine. Then we're going to transfer the mixture to a rocks glass with a large cube of ice in it. Did you have a large cube of ice, Karen? I made one.
Oh, did you? No, I
Yes,
did not.
I
I just
did.
threw in extras.
I took a small plastic container and filled the bottom of it with ice and froze it. It works. Then we're going to top with the club soda. Add a squeeze of fresh lemon juice and garnish with an orange peel. The Tiny Dancer. Should we give our friends and listeners time to make their own Tiny Dancer, Karen?
Of course.
Hold on. And we're back.
Yes, we are.
Karen, might you have a brief synopsis for us of this film from 1935?
I do.
Go on. Tell us all the story.
Dr. Richard Volan saves the life of a young dancer and becomes obsessed with her. He quickly hatches a plan when her father tries to discourage an affair from developing.
Thank you, Karen. We are a match.
It's not a bad one.
Nope, not bad. All right, Karen, tell us everything you really enjoyed in this film or were pleasantly surprised by.
I like this film. I had low expectations, but I thought it was good. I thought Bela Lugosi was really good at being the evil doctor scientist. I liked Boris Karloff in it too. I thought he was really good. The plot was okay. I mean, I didn't have a problem with it. It's short, but it gets the job done in that amount of time. That's what I would say. Pretty small cast. You don't have to keep track of a lot of people. I wouldn't say there was sequel potential, but that's just me. What did you like about it?
You would not say?
I don't think there's sequel potential.
No, there is not. I was just making sure I heard you correctly, Karen.
Unless someone takes up the mantle that was there.
So I wrote a couple things. I thought the music was really good. The acting was really good, I'm sure you would expect, right? But even the other characters, they were fine.
Mm-hmm. I did like the costumes. I always like this era's costumes. Even when they're in bed, they look amazing. You know?
Yes. They're satin nightgowns, Karen.
Yes. Ooh, put your robe on. You're going to be cold. And it's like this thin material that's not going to do any good. Always makes me laugh, but it looks so glamorous. They're just glamorous.
And we could tie this into that too. I wrote the makeup isn't bad, but not like the period makeup. The makeup on Boris it's all right. It's better at times than others. But yeah, I noticed one part. I'm like, I think they rushed this one.
Yeah. He got sick of sitting in the chair.
Story was but it's short.
It's a timeless classic story.
I did appreciate the small cast as well. I wrote down a bunch of the cast because there's quite a few actors in it, but they aren't major or important or anything like that. But they are credited, mostly comic relief, I would say.
Yeah, I agree.
That's all I got. Anything you didn't like, Karen, or were very disappointed in?
I didn't really have anything. I would say in parts of it, I would say the sets were a little lacking. Just a little. I mean, I think we're used to Hammer sets, and these opulent sets. But even the special effects of the torture chamber and stuff, they were all good. I mean, I don't really have anything negative to say. If I had to say something, I would say the sets were a bit lacking at times, and you could tell you're watching miniatures when the storms were coming through and those kinds of things, but that's 1935. So I think the lighting was good. I forgot to mention there's a lot of shadow work in it, which is nice and very appropriate for the subject matter and things. I don't really have anything negative to say, really. Do you?
Not really. No, I didn't have anything written down until you started talking, Karen.
I just bring out the negativity in you. Is that what you're saying?
I did notice at one time, just once, that the set was not great. It was when he was playing the organ, and it was obviously a painted piece of canvas behind him, which was supposed to look like a room in the background. Yeah, that's the only thing that's jumped out at me.
There was one other scene. I don't even remember when it was, but there was nothing on the wall in his house. I thought, it was almost because there was nothing, it distracted me. If there had been anything on it, I wouldn't have noticed. But other than that,
the torture devices were pretty good. I agree. And I kind of liked how it was like a device you might find in the Batcave because all the levers were labeled in really big font. So
you wouldn't mess
exactly
up
what it was,
whether it was the door or the telephone or it was very helpful to the audience. The whole elevator
and bat pendulum or whatever it was.
There's one thing where a whole room is an elevator and it comes down. It's a little weird.
Elevator, the bat elevator.
But it's a cool concept, kind of how he mentions in the beginning that he has recreated some of Poe's torture chambers and then you get to see them and they look okay. They don't look great looking back now, but I'm sure in 1935 it was very impressive.
Yeah, I agree.
I will say he must be one hell of a doctor because he's got lots of money. Apparently, if he can build all this shit in his house, make a whole bedroom into an elevator in
Yeah, it was.
1935.
I did laugh when the fiance runs into a room and it's an elevator shaft and he has to hold on. It's like, oh, that's classic.
Yeah, it's got to be a pretty big house too. Although, of course, the torture devices are in the cellar.
Yes, a big basement. Okay, I will say there is one thing, but it's that I didn't like, and I won't even say I didn't like it, but this happens in many of these films in 1935. They're doing surgery, and it's just very unsanitary. And the whole room is white. There's never any blood. It's distracting a little bit to me that they don't even attempt anything. I mean, the one guy he does surgery on, he's in his street clothes and he stays in his street clothes.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was kind of funny. But it's par for the course in these films. It's not any different than any other.
Yeah, it was
But
nice of them, the doctor to let her keep her face on while she's being operated on.
yes,
She had all her makeup on. She
yes.
looked lipstick and
But we'll talk about it a little later. They do talk about they actually did some research and say some things that are correct. So I thought that was interesting that they took the time to do that. But yeah, the operating scenes are always kind of funny.
I was a little distracted by Bela too. He was a little over the top for me, and I was thinking, he plays lots of characters like this. It's
Oh, I
almost like he
liked it.
plays the same character over and over again.
He kind of does, but is
Not
that
so
his
much when he's
fault?
Dracula, but still, you can see it.
The manner of his speaking I always think of Dracula when I hear him speaking, but I think he was probably typecast. I don't think it was his choice 100% of the time, but he does play it pretty much the same. This was a little over the top, but I bought it. He's insane.
He almost plays the same character in Murders in the Rue Morgue.
Yeah, and there's another one too with the zombies, and he tries to keep the woman for
Yeah,
himself, whatever
White
that
Zombie.
white zombie. Yeah, but I like him.
I know
So
you do, Karen.
it doesn't.
And we can't forget Plan 9 from outer space either, can we, Karen?
I don't know if he was in his substance abuse era, but it didn't seem that way in this one.
Okay.
But hard to tell.
All right. Anything else?
No.
Would you like to hear a review from the time, Karen?
Oh, absolutely.
First, I have to tell you this has a 79% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes, a 6.8 out of 10 on IMDb. What do you think Google users say, Karen?
Were you giving me a hint?
No,
Or were you just enunciating?
I was probably trying to mislead you, but go on.
Oh, of course. What was I thinking? 84%.
93%, Karen.
Wow. That's good. I like that.
You're low, Karen.
Yeah, well, sometimes I go low, Greg. What do you want?
The review I have is from Variety. And as is generally the case, it is dated December 31st, 1934. And I will read all of it because it's short. A good flicker. It's a good flicker, Karen.
Nice.
Just vaguely suggested by the Edgar Allan Poe classic, the adaptation wanders not a little, but the basic romance is wisely kept to the fore, and Bela Lugosi as the psychopathic medico to whom Irene Ware is indebted for her life contributes the shocker aspects forcibly. Boris Karloff again goes into a plastic cast as a horrible example of disfigurement, this serving as the means whereby Lugosi bends him to his will, with the promise of corrective plastic surgery later on as his reward for doing the dirty deeds. After a hectic reel or so in the torture chamber where collapsible rooms grind victims to bits and a descending sword of Damocles? I don't know.
That's what I would say, Damocles, but
Damocles threatens extermination within 15 minutes. Lugosi becomes the victim of one of his most Maki
Machiavellian.
Machiavellian devices. Machiavellian devices.
Machiavellian, yeah.
There you go. What does tell us all, Karen? What does Machiavellian mean?
Well, it's the prince. It's the story. I don't know if he was real or not. Machiavelli,
Prince,
like the
Purple Rain, Prince.
no,
Rain.
He was a horrible person.
Oh,
Machiavelli. I think he was a prince, and it was war. And he's the one who says that I think that you should rule through fear, not through kindness.
Okay, so there you go. That's the review. All right, Karen. What kind of cocktail rating do you want to give this film from 1935 starring Boris Karloff and Bela Lugosi?
Well, this one's sentimental. I've never seen it before, but this is exactly the kind of film my mom would watch. And this would be on in our home when I would come over or whatever. So I would give it a solid 3.
Okay, that's fine. I'll give it a 3.
I think it's a good movie. It was easily enjoyed. I didn't have any problems with it, and it really
it's an easy watch. It's like an hour. It's a good rainy Saturday afternoon.
It's just the kind of movie that she would watch, that she would like. And when I watch those, I feel all emotional about it.
All right, 3 cocktails. And boys and girls, once again, that means it only took us 3 cocktails to get through it.
That's becoming our average, I think.
It is average.
3 is average.
3 is average.
4 is not great. 2 was really good. We don't do a lot of 1s and 5s, but
no, much to my chagrin. All right, Karen, do you want to go through it scene by scene?
Absolutely.
I only have 3 pages, so it's a nice short film. The Raven from 1935. It is, of course, unrated, Karen, but we do have words to read at the beginning that says, "This picture approved by the Production Code Administration of the Motion Picture Producers and Distributors of America. Certificate number 790.
Do you want to tell everyone where we watched this, Greg?
Well, it was on Amazon Prime, Karen, up until time to watch it.
Yes.
I think they're
I'm sure they rotate their films through and whatever, but so we went to watch it and it wasn't there, and we couldn't find it anywhere streaming on the internet, even with ads. The only thing I could find was a site where someone commentated through the whole thing, and I didn't want to go sit through that. So I ordered mine off of Amazon, the DVD.
I did as well, Karen. Fortunately, it arrives next day.
Yes. See, when you're in a hurry, that's what happens. Okay.
And it wasn't terrible expensive,
No.
It wasn't free with Amazon Prime, though. I don't know. I think they're tracking us. All right.
That's not conspiracy theorists at all, but please go on.
All right. Film begins. We have credits. And it says it is suggested by Edgar Allan Poe's immortal classic. And we see a lady driving on a foggy night.
Not well either.
No, she's going pretty quick for that foggy, rainy night.
I would say so too.
On the mountain road. And she sees a detour sign, and it must scare her horribly, Karen, because she screams and wrecks. She rolls that car right over the cliff there of the little mountain hill. Next, we cut to a hospital. And I wrote, she looks good, but apparently she has a brain injury, Karen.
Not a bruise on her. She looks angelic.
She looks beautiful. And the doctors all ask for Dr. Volin.
Well, they all seem to not be able to do anything. Everybody's standing around fretting, and the father is in the room, and they're all looking at her, and we can't do anything. We can't do anything. Well, we all need Dr. Volin. So they finally call him.
Then we cut to Dr. Volin in his study or whatever the hell it is, and he is reciting The Raven. And there's a man from a museum there trying to buy the doctor's Poe collection. And Dr. Volin says the Raven is his talisman.
And the poor museum guy says, isn't the Raven a harbinger of death? Doesn't it symbolize death? But then he explains it's so much more than that.
And I thought I made a note, but apparently I didn't hear. But there's nice shadow work, as you mentioned
Yes.
during this scene.
He has what looks like a taxidermied raven, and there's a light shining on it, and its shadow is on the wall.
So, of course, the hospital calls, and Dr. Volin says that he doesn't see patients anymore. He just concentrates on doing research.
We should say there is a servant there at that time that answers the phone and then transfers it through. But yes, he doesn't do, he's like, the other doctors would do just as well as me. Go ahead. They can do it. But
he refuses.
And he hangs up.
Good day. So then Dr. Volin tells the man from the museum that he says he's tired.
Yes.
You must leave. You must leave. I said, good day. I am tired. But he does tell him as he's walking him out that you must come back sometime and see the torture devices I have constructed from Poe's work.
Yeah, I don't think I'd come back to see torture devices.
Yeah, maybe not. So then Judge Thatcher, who's the girl's father, goes to see Dr. Volin and again asks him to perform the surgery.
Yeah, he goes to his home. He says, what's his address? And they give it to him back in the day when privacy wasn't an issue. And he shows up at his house to beg for his daughter's life.
And right here where I wrote nice shadow work, because we have the Raven and Dr. Thatcher's shadow in the background.
Yes, it's very nice.
Yeah, it is nice. But eventually, Volin agrees to see the judge's daughter.
Well, you know why he does. He only agrees after the judge says, they say you're the best. No one can possibly do it but you. You're the only one. And he's like, they say that? He said, yes. All the other doctors think you're so great. This has a little bit, if you're around the medical community, surgeons tend to have a certain reputation. And this plays into that. They say I'm the only one. Okay, I'll do it. He agrees.
So then we see them back at the hospital, I guess, bringing the girl in for surgery. And everyone's in their whites. And once again, her face is beautiful. And I wrote, Bela Lugosi does some eye acting behind his mask.
I think he walks in and sees that she's beautiful. I think that's what that's supposed to be, don't you?
Yes. Just like love at first sight for him.
Kind of thing.
Apparently.
Yeah. Love connection.
So then they put the girl under with anesthesia. That's a pretty nice transition shot too, when they're putting the mask over the camera.
I agree.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
And then we cut to Dr. Volin playing the organ in a bad set. And the girl is resting on the couch by the fire.
In a hat and a beautiful skirt and the whole gig. She's very glamorous. And I said, is that the girl from the hospital? Why, yes, it is.
And she's very complimentary of the doctor's playing ability. He's a great musician, a great doctor. And
yes, not only a wonderful surgeon.
He's like a god.
Yes, she calls him a god, which, again, surgeons play God. So there you go. They do have God complexes sometimes.
And we learn it's been a month since the surgery. And then all of a sudden, Dr. Volin starts coming on the girl saying, we can't ignore our feelings anymore or whatever.
Well, she said, I wish I could do something for you. And he seems to have some things in mind that she could do for him. She looks completely recovered in a month from that, whatever the surgery was.
Yeah, but he's like, I think we should give in to our
yes, and he keeps trying to put his arm around her. Yeah, and she's avoiding it. But she does say, but I have a wonderful surprise for you tomorrow night.
Yeah, and she says that she is in love with Dr. Jerry, that's what I call him, who Dr. Volin, I guess, just made like his assistant or whatever.
Yeah, but assistant for what? He doesn't do anything.
Research. I don't know.
I guess.
But she does say she's got a surprise for him, and he says he will come to see her dance the next evening. So then we cut to the next evening. There's a sign outside the theater says, "Special attraction, Miss Jean Thatcher in her dance interpretations.
Yes.
Limited engagement." And again, we see her performing, and she's performing as someone is reciting The Raven, and she dances. She does her interpretation of
It
The
is.
Raven.
It's not exactly ballet, but I don't know. It is interpretive.
Yeah, I think, I'm not sure that was in vogue in the 30s. Could have been.
I don't know.
Seems like something that would come later. Interpretive dance. Maybe not.
Well, they called it that on the sign. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. We appreciate you spending time with us. You know, you can help us grow our audience by following us on social media at Scary Spirits Podcast. Just look for us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And don't forget to tell all your friends to find us too. Now let's get back to the show.
Then we see Jean and Dr. Jerry in her dressing room celebrating her performance.
Right before that, Dr. Vallon and Jean's father are sitting together watching the performance, and the father is watching the doctor and getting concerned because the doctor's all jazzed up because, one, he's watching her dance, but two, she's taking his world of his infatuation with Poe and putting it on stage. So really, it's kind of about him.
Well, duh.
So then, yes, and then but the father is not happy about what he's watching. And then when they're in the dressing room, he's even less pleased.
Yeah. So next thing I wrote is the judge is beginning to get suspicious about Dr. Vallon's feelings for Jean.
So obviously the doctor has feelings for Jean. Do you think Jean is just thankful that her life was saved and doesn't reciprocate those feelings? But the judge later seems to imply that she does a little bit, but I couldn't see that. Could you? Was it just, I think she's all into Dr. Jerry. I didn't see.
Yeah, I do too, but she's obviously flattered, I think, that.
Oh, with his attention?
Yes.
The doc's attention.
Right. Maybe she's sending mixed signals, Karen.
Maybe. Or she just doesn't realize well, she kind of did. She was dodging him pretty well. So I think she knows his intentions.
So then Judge Thatcher goes to see Dr. Vallon. Judge tells Doctor
at home, yes,
at his home to stay away from Jean so that she and Dr. Jerry can be married. And Dr. Vallon gets very upset, and he has a test tube in his hand and he squeezes it so it shatters in his hand.
It was bad blood, I will say that, in his hand.
I didn't even know if it was blood.
Oh, I thought it was.
There was something in the test tube, and I assumed
that was just liquid. All right, but it was glass, so you'd think.
I know you would think so. I don't know.
Anyway, doesn't matter. But even then, then the judge says, "Oh, I see. He realizes he has feelings for her," and the doctor is like, "Okay, well, now that you know that, are you still against, us being together?" And he says, "Even more so."
Yeah, judge tells him not to see her again, but Vallon is very persistent.
He's not happy with that.
No, he orders the judge to send her to him.
He says that multiple times, even after the judge has
like
left
she's a zombie.
Yes.
Or something.
Even after the judge has left the room.
Send her to me. Judge thinks he's crazy.
Mad. They use that word a lot. He's mad.
He's mad. So then I wrote, Boris Karloff goes to see Dr. Vallon.
Well, we saw a pub scene briefly, and
Yes, briefly.
Boris's character is a criminal. It's a kind of dingy pub, and
But we don't know that when he's in the pub.
Well, but somebody passes him a note that says, "Go see this guy."
Yes.
So, but it's a little seedy in the area that they're in and stuff. But then Boris, what's his name in this? Bateman? Yeah, goes to see the doctor.
But Dr. Vallon recognizes him as Edmund Bateman, and because he's seen his picture in the papers, because he's an escaped prisoner.
Yes. So for what I thought was happening, was someone, one or the other, either the doctor or the judge was hiring a hitman. That's what I thought was happening here, just from the passing of the note in the pub. And then the only other thing I want to mention is Boris Karloff's tie when he's walking through the street is about, what, 4 inches long?
I don't know.
It was so short. I'm sure it was the style, but it was amazing. If you watch this movie, look for the tie.
Well, his vest probably would have covered it.
No, the ends were flopping out. It was short.
I know, but was he wearing a vest? Was he wearing like a whole 3-piece thing?
Probably.
All right, so Edmund wants his face changed, and he pulls a gun on Dr. Valen. And we learn that he's an escaped convict. He's killed a couple people escaping from prison. Dr. Valen agrees to do the surgery, but Edmund must do something for him first.
And Dr. Valen says, I'm not a plastic surgeon. So I was just curious, this is 1935. What are some of the earliest plastic surgeries? And you won't be surprised to learn that the ancient Egyptians were doing plastic surgery as early as 2000 BC.
Well, they weren't using plastic.
Papyrus scrolls from ancient Egypt document cosmetic surgeries. That's what he's asking for, though.
Yes.
So, and Greek physicians like Hippocrates and Galen also made contributions. So it's not new, obviously. I mean, they were doing things back in ancient Egypt, but I'll give you a couple just things in more modern times that were considered first. In 1814, Joseph Carpew successfully performed an operative procedure on a British military officer who had lost his nose to mercury treatments. So that one's cited a lot. And in 1827, Dr. John Peter Mettauer performed the first cleft palate operation in the New World, they say. But those are early examples of what they could do with the surgeries. So by 1935, I'm sure he could do something to change his face in a reasonable manner.
So then they go to Dr. Valen's secret surgery room, apparently.
Well, wait. So there's a couple of things. One, they're telling us how bad of a person Boris Karloff is. He had to do some pretty awful things to break out of prison. He killed some people. He did some torture, whatever. And Valen is very excited by that. We're learning he's a bad dude. And he wants to pay with money. He doesn't want to be bad anymore. He says, I don't want to do that anymore. I just want to, look better, different, and go about my business. But Valen keeps insisting, no, if I do this, you have to do something for me. And then Bateman
they try really hard to make him, Boris Karloff, a sympathetic
reasonable
character.
Yes, reasonable person. And he says, well, maybe I do bad things because I'm so ugly. And if I wasn't ugly, then I wouldn't do bad things. And you can see this light bulb go off over Dr. Valen's head. Oh, you've said something very profound. Come into my operating room. So he's saying that if you're really ugly, you'll do really ugly things. So follow me.
Dr. Valen says he's going to operate on the nerves that control the muscles of the face.
He says the 7th cranial nerve, and he explains to Bateman that it controls the muscles of the face. And he's actually right. The 7th cranial nerve is also known as the facial nerve, is responsible for many functions in the face and head, including facial expressions. The facial nerve controls the muscles used for facial expressions, such as smiling and frowning. That's why when he messes with it, Bateman can't speak well. He can't use his mouth properly. So that's nice that they looked up something that is true, what he's messing with. It's also responsible for taste because it carries nerves to the anterior 2/3 of the tongue that are involved in taste. It controls whether you can cry or not. Also your jaw muscles and your middle ear. So it does a lot, that 7th cranial nerve. You don't want to mess with that.
Yeah, I'm sure by this time they were probably doing lots of research into strokes and things like that. And yeah. So then Dr. Valen takes Edmund's pulse as his face is all wrapped in bandages, and he's very pleased.
So he operates. He has him lay down on the table in his full
Yes,
street clothes.
loosen your tie
Yeah,
and
let's
lay
get
down.
on with this. Yeah, that's all it is. And then when he comes back to check on him, his face is completely covered like the Invisible Man.
Well, half of it anyway.
And well, the first one, it's all of it, but he's still in his street clothes. He says the operation is simple and only take 10 minutes.
So then Dr. Valen removes the bandages, and we see half of Edmund's face is deformed. Valen thinks something is no.
Bateman
Edmund
can't
thinks,
see himself,
thinks
but
something is wrong, and he wants to see himself.
yeah, he's having trouble speaking.
And
That's what he
Dr.
says.
Valen leaves the room and reveres a wall of mirrors all around
Yes.
him.
One curtain at a time opens and he sees himself.
So
And
then
he's not happy.
Edmund pulls his gun and shoots the mirrors, emptying his revolver, Karen.
Yeah, there were 6 mirrors, right?
Yeah, and then Dr. Valen laughs at him from above, right? In a grate. He opens like a little door above the room and laughs at him.
Yeah, and I said there's good lighting there to make the doctor look evil, just the way they lit his face. But unfortunately, Bateman is deformed now on his face because the doctor's trying to make him ugly, so he'll do ugly things.
But Dr. Valen tells him that if he does the job for him, he will fix his face. So Edmund agrees.
So he's kind of got him now.
Then the doctor gives Edmund some clothes and tells him to get ready. The guests will arrive in an hour.
He also has given his butler the weekend off. We saw that briefly earlier.
Then we have words to read, Karen. My dear Jean, will you and Dr. Holden come Friday evening for dinner and spend the weekend?
That was funny.
There will be other guests, you know. This invitation includes, of course, Judge Thatcher. I expect you, Richard Valen. So it's an invitation. And we learn that Jean does want her father to come.
Well, it says over and it says, Dad, we went, you come too on the back.
All right. So then we see Jean and Dr. Jerry driving to Dr. Valen's house. And then we see them all at Dr. Valen's house and they're gambling on a horse racing game.
They're playing party games. Yeah. There's 6 people there?
Something
3
like
couples?
that.
Yeah.
3 couples. And Dr. Valen and Edmund, I guess.
Yes. Edmund Bateman is dressed up as a servant now.
But I don't know. Jerry does something to mess with Jean's hair, so she has to go upstairs to fix it. I don't know.
They're doing like a little bit of public display of affection, and the doctor is not happy about that. But she goes up to fix her hair because he messed her hair up.
So then Edmund enters and tells Dr. Valen that there is a man there to see him, and the others are shocked by his appearance. So Judge Thatcher arrives and he apologizes for the way he behaved earlier. I guess Valen does. Dr. Valen sends Edmund to get Jean, and he enters Jean's room and scares her.
Well, he went in without knocking or anything. He just showed up in her room, which I thought was weird. But then I realized, they're spending the night, so they all have rooms in the house.
Then Dr. Valen talks about the genius of Edgar Allan Poe, and he explains the poem The Raven to them.
He explains Bateman's appearance. He was tortured by someone or something, and I don't know what happened. I couldn't hear it, but and then he starts to talk about the Raven when Jean says, "Oh, please just change the subject."
So then they all decide to go to bed.
Yes, it's very late. What was it, 8:00 or something? I don't know.
Jean apologizes to Edmund as she is going back to her room.
Yeah, I thought it was sweet. And that's when Edmund, of course, falls in love with her because everybody's in love with Jean.
And at the dark and stormy night, Karen,
Yes, it is.
the judge wants them to go home, meaning he, Jean, and Dr. Jerry. He thinks they are in danger.
Yeah, he's a smart man.
Edmund enters, but then Dr. Valen comes in and tells Edmund to go downstairs. What are you doing here? Go downstairs.
I think he was going to try to warn Jean.
I think so too.
Yeah.
So then Jean and Dr. Jerry decide to switch rooms just in case the doctor has something nefarious planned.
Dr. Volan, yes. And I think it's the judge and Dr. Jerry that say, you know what? We're not worried about him sneaking in your room in the middle of the night. Let's have her switch rooms. And they all do.
Then Dr. Volan shows Edmund his torture devices, specifically the pendulum.
He lays down on it to show him how someone would be positioned.
And then Edmund traps
of course,
the doctor in it.
Yeah.
But Dr. Volan reminds him that if something happens to him, Edmund will remain hideous.
Yes, hideous.
So Edmund releases him. Then we cut to Jean sleeping, and a trap door opens in her room. And then just then a branch comes through her window from the dark and stormy night. She wakes up and screams. She runs against Dr. Jerry. She tells him a man was coming up from her floor, but Dr. Jerry thinks she imagined it. And he takes her back to her original room. Cut to Dr. Volan questioning Edmund about why he went up through the trap door. Then the colonel knocks on the door to get some sleeping powder for his wife.
Oh, I wish I had sleeping powder. They slip through everything. They sleep through the whole shebang.
They do.
With the sleeping powder they got.
So 11 o'clock, Edmund goes and grabs the judge from his bed. Dr. Jerry hears the noise and goes to investigate.
Yeah, he makes a racket.
And he hears the judge.
That was not well planned. Yeah, he hears him.
He tries to follow their voices to the cellar, but Edmund punches him and closes the secret door in Dr. Volan's study or whatever.
But he does see the secret door, so he knows it's there.
Yes, Dr. Jerry.
Yes.
So then they shackle the judge to the platform, I wrote, above the pendulum and turn on the pendulum. The swinging blade going back and forth.
Yes, it is creepy.
And Dr. Volan tells the judge he's going to torture him. And basically, he's got 15 minutes. There's the clock.
And he takes a lot of pleasure in that. At this point, Dr. Volan is lighting up with all this torture that's about to happen.
So then Dr. Volan turns on an elevator, throws the switch that says elevator on the big control wall, and brings Jean's room down to the cellar.
Yes, it shakes a little, and then down the whole room comes.
Then we see Dr. Jerry running to Jean's room. He opens the door, and of course, the room's gone, so he almost falls down the elevator shaft. Then Jerry wakes the others, except for the colonel and his wife, because they got that powder.
Yes.
So then they all go down to Dr. Volan's room or his office or whatever it is, and they try to open the secret door. Then they start to call the police, but Dr. Volan throws the switch on the big control wall that says phone.
Telephone, even, I think.
Yeah, probably was telephone. So he disconnects the phone so they can't call the police. And then he traps them in his office with steel shutters on the windows.
Yeah, I said this would be an excellent zombie house. You know what I mean? Like the way they could protect against zombies so easily.
Yeah. After the zombie apocalypse.
Yes.
So then Jean yells for Jerry. Dr. Volan tells Edmund to tell her to stop. Tell her to stop.
She's on my nerves. It's on my last nerve.
But Jean tries to get Edmund to help her.
She says, he's not going to help you. I'll help you. The old switcheroo.
Yeah. She agrees to help him. Then Dr. Volan opens the secret door and the others enter. They make their way.
They know it's a trap, but they go anyway.
Yeah. They make their way to the cellar. They find the judge strapped to the platform or whatever it is, but they can't stop the pendulum from swinging. And it's getting closer and closer, Karen.
It's all locked or something. They can't figure it out. Although they do in a little bit, whatever.
So then Dr. Volan enters and holds them all at gunpoint. And he says they're going to have a wedding. And first I thought he meant him and Jean.
So did I.
But no, I think he's over that.
Yeah. At this point, he doesn't care anymore. Jean is nothing to him.
So Dr. Volan forces Dr. Jerry and Jean into a room.
And Edmund throws the switch to close the door. And Dr. Valen says they will be in there forever and ever.
Together forever.
In love.
Yes. He even says it like that, like he's making fun of them.
So then Dr. Valen gives a soliloquy about Poe, I wrote. I don't know what he says, but it's all about Edgar Allan Poe. Then Dr. Valen tells Edmund that the room has walls that will close in on Jean and Dr. Jerry, crushing them both.
Bateman's not happy with that. He's not comfortable with that.
No, he wants to stop the walls closing in. Dr. Valen warns him not to. Edmund opens the door to the room and Dr. Valen shoots him. But Edmund manages to tackle Dr. Valen and drag him into the room.
I think he knocked him out briefly.
And he runs out and closes the door to the room, and the walls begin closing in on Dr. Valen.
And this whole time, the other doctor and his wife are just standing there. You know, there's the guy strapped to the slab where the pendulum's coming, and the room closing in on the young couple, like the Star Wars garbage container.
Trash compactor.
And the whole time, the other two are just standing there. What was he going to do with them?
I don't know. So then the others go and free Dr. Thatcher from the slab. And they begin wondering about the colonel and his wife, but they're sleeping. They slept through it all.
We do see that Dr. Valen is getting crushed in the room.
Yeah, and Edmund's dead too.
Yeah, he's lying on the ground shot. I think they should have just ended it there.
Then we see Jean and Dr. Jerry driving home, and they say, poor Bateman, he gave his life to save us. But then Dr. Jerry says that he will crush Jean, but much more gently, Karen.
Yes.
And she says to Dr. Jerry, oh, so you're the big bad raven. The end. He even does one of those like fade in, like you're closing the shutter or whatever.
Yeah.
Credits, the end. It's a little cheesy ending.
Yeah, I think they should have stopped it earlier.
A little cheesy. All right, Karen, anything we learned today?
Let's see. What did we learn? Only a couple things. It was pretty short and not much stuff in there. We learned a little bit about when plastic surgery was starting, a couple of highlights in the early plastic surgery evolution, and about the seventh cranial nerve.
You told us about Machiavellian. Explain that to us.
Not very well, but Machiavellian.
Machiavellian.
Or Machiavelli. Machiavelli, I think.
Machiavelli. All right. What'd you think of the tiny dancer, Karen?
It's good. I didn't stir at first I got a lot of soda with bourbon.
Because you top it off with club soda.
I needed to stir it more, but whenever I see Campari, I think I'm not going to like it, but this was okay. I think the honey,
okay.
I
can still taste it. Like mine is evaporated and I can still taste the Campari, but it's not terrible.
Very bourbon forward though, even with all the other stuff in it. The orange, I did not have blood orange juice, so I only used orange juice. That's all I had. So, but it's okay. I liked it. I would sip it over a long period of time because I like bourbon mixed with things.
Yeah, I'm out of bourbon, Karen.
Uh-oh. That's not good.
Yeah, I gotta stop and get some. All right, are we ready to move on to next week's film?
I believe we are.
Karen, what film have you chosen for us?
Well, it's now December.
The hell you say?
So we will be watching the 2015 slasher classic, All Through the House.
Is it a slasher classic, Karen?
Sure. It's Christmas. We'll give it a gift.
All right. Do we have a cocktail?
We do.
Enjoy while we watch this classic slasher flick.
How about a classic Christmas slasher flick? That might narrow it down a little bit.
There you go.
We have a cocktail called the Bad Santa Bourbon Bomb.
Yeah, I need more bourbon then.
Yeah. You're going to need 2 ounces of bourbon, 1 ounce of coffee liqueur, 3 ounces of cola, and 1 rogue cherry. And it says, don't ask why. Mix bourbon, coffee liqueur, and cola in a glass. Stir like you're stirring up trouble. Add the rogue cherry. Drop in the cherry. It's the rebel of the drink, and we love it. Serve in style. Pour into an old-fashioned glass and set it on a red and black plaid napkin.
With the big ice cube in it, Karen?
And it doesn't say. Sip while contemplating your life choices in front of tacky holiday decorations. This isn't your grandma's Christmas cocktail. I found it on Facebook.
Or is it, Karen?
Yeah, it might just be. Especially depending on your grandma. But I did find it on Facebook from Mia Flavors.
All right. It doesn't sound bad.
I don't know. The coffee liqueur throws me a little bit, but I don't know.
Kahlua?
Kahlua and bourbon?
That's right. You don't like coffee, do you? I don't either, but I don't mind it in my liquor. Somehow that makes it all okay.
Makes a lot of things okay, doesn't it?
All right. Any reason you chose this film other than it's December 4th when this comes out?
Just I'm feeling the holiday spirit. It's the only reason.
I am too, Karen. Once I saw all your choices I had to change one of mine. So we're all Christmas all month. I was going to do a Hammer film one week, but no.
For shame.
It'll wait. It can wait.
Hammer didn't do any Christmas films?
We did the Lodge.
Oh, okay. But yeah, not any from the 1970s.
Plenty of them came out during December, which the one I chose did come out in December.
Oh, but it wasn't Christmas themed.
The Devil Rides Out doesn't sound very Christmassy to me.
It's better than The Devil Rides In.
Well, known in America as The Devil Takes a Bride.
Oh.
So we'll get to that one eventually.
Can't wait.
Yeah, it's surprising, actually. Well, I don't know if it is or not, but lots of horror films come out around Christmas time. All right. Well, I guess I look forward to that classic Christmas slasher. And anything that's called the Bad Santa Bourbon Bomb can't be bad.
It's going to be delicious.
Although I'm sure it's themed to like the Bad Santa movies or something.
Before we start thanking people, Greg, there's one thing I want to say.
What is that, Karen?
If you've listened this far into the podcast and really want to see The Raven, I've got a special surprise for you. Since you can't stream it anywhere, at least not now, maybe later you could. If you email info@scaryspirits.com with your name and address, I'll send you my copy of The Raven DVD just for you.
Karen, if a second person emails that same address, I'll send them mine.
Ooh, 2 people can have copies of The Raven.
Yeah.
I think, yeah. I mean, it's worth it. If you listen this far, yeah, we'll send it right to your door.
Yeah, so the first 2 emails we get with name and addresses, we'll send you a hard copy of The Raven. All right, Karen, now that that's been done, anyone you need to thank?
Well, Greg, I'd like to thank our listener. We know there's a lot of podcasts out there. Thank you for spending time with us. What about you, Greg? Who do you need to thank?
Karen, I'm going to thank the band Verse 13 for providing all the music in the Scary Spirits podcast.
The music definitely makes the podcast better.
And that state, you know who you are.
The one you were recently in.
Yes, I was in you recently. And it was interesting. Never been in you before.
Possibly might be again sometime in the future. You're not ruling it out.
You never know. Yeah. Things happen.
Yeah.
All right, Karen, anything else?
Please drink responsibly.
Yes.
Thanks so much for listening. Want to keep in touch? Check out our website, scaryspirits.com. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Scary Spirits Podcast. Find us on YouTube at Scary Spirits Podcast. If you have questions or comments, you can email us at info@scaryspirits.com. To help us grow the podcast, you can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. You know, we really do appreciate your support. And as always, please drink responsibly.